Alex, it's good to see you. I haven't seen you in probably 5 or 6 years, maybe. And man,
Yeah, yeah. XL Lounge. I mean,
man,
we've hung out a few other times, but that I think it was when we first met. It was XL Lounge in Newark.
right. We that was it was like a fashion show, right? And
Yeah, something.
DJ Connect was there, and I brought a bunch of my friends with me. And tell me, man, what have you been up to, man, all this time? I know you've been busy.
Yeah, well, it's just like everybody else. I'm kind of, using this time to like reinvent myself and build a little. It's a great time to be a producer, I think, because I don't know if you've seen that meme that's going around. Like it says, "Producers, this is the moment we've been training for," and I think that's really true.
Yeah, man, it's time to reassess. Definitely a time to get projects that were in the shelves, or that were forgotten, or those things we wanted to do and we never got. It's time to get on them right now. I'm sure you have a big bolt
Yeah,
of that, like I do.
yeah. So work kind of dried up for me for probably 6 weeks or so. I mean, it's starting to kick back up now, but
It's
so yeah.
okay,
So I
man.
started a Twitch channel, redesigned my website, and I think, well, those are the two main things. But just a little bunch of little odds and ends.
The website
How about
looks
how about you?
well, man. I've been very, very busy, man. Okay,
Yeah.
I have been building a couple of businesses since I saw you, and that has been my bread and butter for the past few years, and has kept me afloat uh, through this. I've been busy, man. I've been taking care of my kid, taking care of my businesses, and just launched this podcast. Especially now that's going back to what we were talking about, right? This is something that I wanted to do. I remember I had you on my show like 6, 7 years ago when I had the Party Drop
Yes.
Zone
Yes. I almost
podcast. And
forgot about
yeah,
that.
that was a
It's been
great.
a while.
I still have the interview in there somewhere. It was a brief interview, but right now I want to go a little bit into depth. People get to know you. I want to talk a little bit about your journey. You have quite a resume. You have, I would say, not only paid the dues, but you have remained diligent. I would like to talk a little bit about your journey, man. Your beginnings. How did this all start? And you can go as far back as you want. Okay, and take me through, man, what it was like, Cooper Anderson. Maybe when you growing up, I heard somewhere that you were beginning to push record buttons when you were a kid. What's up with that? You want to tell me
Oh
about that?
yeah. We want to go back all the way, huh? Yeah, no. So yeah, I mean, I always into recording and like making dubs. I would record songs off the radio and like make little mixtapes and whatnot. In the early '80s when I was growing up, and then in high school I got into like playing in bands and stuff. So uh, we would play at like the local bars, and you always needed a demo tape.
Right.
So I was ended up being the guy to do the recording because I was in a school program where they were showing us how to use the studio and whatnot. And so after that, after high school, I went to Berklee College of Music and did the music production and engineering program there. And then as I was graduating, literally like at the commencement, I got a job with Ken Lewis down here in New Jersey. And 3 weeks later, I was working on Kanye West Gold Digger, among other. That was, late registration. We worked on a few of the records. And then just stayed working with Ken for about 12 years and just stacked up credits. And then I kind of got married and had a kid, and now I'm like doing the family thing. And uh, that's actually been the latest struggle. Is I mean, you're a dad. You got to juggle the time because this music stuff just takes so much time, and family stuff too. So you really have to like prioritize certain things, and you can't go skimpy on anything either. So especially sleep. don't go skimpy on the sleep.
That is so important, man. About sleeping. I can't remember the name of this guy, but and I'll send you probably the info later. He talks about he's doing a research on regenerative studies. They're trying to reverse aging. Okay, and I don't want to get off topic, but sleep, man, is one of the most important things for health, and I'm guilty myself. I don't get a lot of it, especially in the past 45 or so days. It has been like an awakening inside about so many thoughts, right? And so many things that not only what's happening, but what's going to happen with let's say with me, or what I want to do, or where I want to go. And it's been depriving me of sleep. I guess the enthusiasm, I would say. I'm very optimistic, actually. Okay, even though everybody's been hurt and there's been a lot of pain out there, I'm very optimistic, about what the future holds for all of us in the music industry, and as business owners uh, in general. So yeah, I was browsing through your website, talking about your journey right now as of what is going on now. You're a dad. You're in a different place, right, than when we used to run around single and mingling and all that stuff. It's a completely
Yeah.
different. It's a completely different deal. But I was looking at your website, man. I really like it. CooperAnderson.net. And tell
That's
me
me.
about that, man. Tell me about what's going on in there, your services, and
Yeah, so for me, the website's just kind of like biography, I guess. I was thinking it would be just one kind of central place that has a little more information about everything that I do, and then like the individual services are more in like select places. Like for instance, my producing and mixing business, a lot of it's word of mouth, but a lot of it's on the site soundbetter.com. So if someone's on SoundBetter and they want to find more about me, then they go to my website and then there's more information. And I launched a podcast as well, so that's the same thing. If someone's listening to the podcast, they want to find out more, they go here. And it's like the bio basically.
Sound Better. Yes, I saw that on Sound Better. Is that connected to Spotify recommendations and stuff as well, or is that separate? Because I did see you on Spotify. Spotify is actually recommending you when you're an
Yeah,
artist.
so Spotify bought SoundBetter about a year ago. And it's, Spotify is just acquiring like certain businesses like DistroKid and what was the other one? No, Shazam is Apple Music, but they're all
Nice.
kind of like positioning themselves to like compete with each other. But I guess Spotify purchasing SoundBetter to me is more to compete with SoundCloud than to compete with like an Apple Music, because SoundCloud's more the organic like creator
Right.
vibes, and then Spotify purchasing SoundBetter is like, okay, well we can get you on the platform, but your records suck. So if you need to make them sound better, here's where you do it.
You said Spotify acquired DistroKid.
Yeah. DistroKid they've owned for at least a few years now.
Nice. Okay, that's why that's one of the best ways to be able to get into the music distribution and get verification on Spotify for those that are listening and that are artists and need to get in there and get verified. DistroKid makes the process a lot simpler and a lot easier to be able to get the verification process for being an artist. But yeah,
Yeah,
sound better,
absolutely.
man.
It always comes up, when I'm working with artists. So what distributor do I go with? And then, people want to like lean on me to like hit up my industry connects to get like a AWOL or like like a 1 RPM or something like that, or Sony. But the thing is, like, if you're just starting out, it's not a good idea to go that direction, because basically what's going to happen is those companies are going to take 20, 30, 40% of your revenue, and they're not going to do anything for you, because in order for them to like actually like actively promote you, you need to either have a ton of money or already be generating buzz and generating streams. So if you're like starting from the ground up, your best bet is to go with a DistroKid or a CD Baby or any of those, because they're not going to promote you, but the other guy isn't either. So at least you'll be able to keep your revenue, and you have a lot more flexibility when stuff does start to happen. I've seen people get locked in some awful deals with those companies, and it's great if you're like already established, but they're going to be coming to you. So I mean, that's kind of the goal, is to like get them to come to you instead of the other way around.
Yes, and I guess that goes to whether you're a producer or whether you're an artist or whether you're a mixing engineer or a DJ, right? It's pretty much that's kind of like the way it is. And yeah, I've seen a lot of people never see any money as far as especially producers. They're still waiting for. I was watching a documentary the other day about the NWA and
Oh,
Easy E
NWA,
back in
yeah,
the day, and
yeah,
yeah, some of them producers never got paid. And
yeah,
this looks like 20, 30 years later, 30 years, 40 years later. You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
cutthroat.
Sporadic. Well, it's like you said on the other podcast. You have to really have a diversified income stream, because first of all, if you're producing an artist, you're going to be locked in the studio with them. You're not going to have any time to take on other production projects. I mean, people always constantly, myself included, underestimate how much time this really takes. And so there's an opportunity cost with every project that you take. But
Yes.
yeah, so you're locked in the studio working with them. You're not going to be, receiving awards on the Grammys or anything like that. It's just, and even if you do get a Grammy, like, yeah, I went to the Grammys. I was, on there, and I didn't go on stage. I wasn't on TV. It wasn't all that glamorous.
Yeah, I saw Connect there. I saw him with the James Brown family, and
Oh yeah,
yeah, I saw him all pimped out with a nice suit and everything. I'm so happy for you. Still talk about what do you
yeah,
guys have you hang out still or what's up?
oh yeah, yeah. We're still doing a bunch of projects. Um, yeah, he. I don't know how he does it. He always gets in there, and like, he's like front row every single Grammys. The Grammys came to New York a couple years ago, and
Yeah.
we turn on CBS to watch it, and I'm like, it's panning to the host, and I see like Connect right behind James Carville. I'm like, what?
Yeah, I know, man. That's
But
my dude, man.
yeah, no, so he's cool. He's yeah, he's kind of doing the same thing. He's trying to get into the movie business, like producing movies and stuff.
I saw
So
that, man.
we've been doing some sync placements. I just stick to producing. I don't know. I'm kind of basic, whatever. But I do like the sync licensing, because that's another income stream.
Well,
And
that's
so we got the movie stuff, and then we're producing a artist from Michigan. She's like 15 or 16, young girl, really nice voice. So we're doing a few songs with her, and that was one of the artists that we're trying to like figure out how to do the rollout, because I just had another artist who we had some label situations and whatnot. And we're looking at the deals, and that's how I came to that conclusion that I mentioned before. Like, just stick with the basics until you're like really got something going.
yes. Well, that's important that you guys are trying to do that with her, and yeah, what you're talking about, it kind of reminds me of what happened to Billie Eilish. A lot of people think that she just became overnight sensation, and that's not exactly how it happened. They had a big, she had a few sync placements a few years back, and there was like a rollout or about 2 or 3 year process with their firm of how they begin to little by little begin to roll different things and accomplish different things, and then when they released that album, okay, then it blew up, but it didn't just happen overnight. It was an evolution of becoming something, of creating something. You want to talk about that aspect of the industry?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the other part of the Billie Eilish thing is her parents were in show business, so she was born into some
Yes.
connections. Now that doesn't automatically mean you're going to make it, but
No.
it is certainly an advantage. Like
Yes.
for me, for instance, I mean, my parents, I love them, but they're not professional musicians. They're incredibly supportive. They do music stuff, but they didn't have that network, so I had to kind of build it myself. And when I was at Berkeley, you could see the difference, because there's a lot of people who were like Will Champlin Jr. Was in my class. Will Champlin was he was a voice contestant. He was doing pretty well, but his dad is Will Champlin Sr. from Chicago. So it's like a bunch of people like that. Like they already have like these built-in family ties. That's a serious advantage. And it's not to say you can't do it without it, but that's something to
Yes.
keep in mind if you're trying to compare yourself to Billie Eilish. Comparison number one: do I have famous, connected parents? If it's no, don't beat yourself up.
Right.
But anyway, so in regards to like developing her and whatnot, I think that goes for anybody. You got to put in the time. You got to do the reps. Otherwise, it's not going to work. If you're not like getting on as a producer, you just got to keep getting better. I mean, I'm still trying to build my skills, and I feel like since this quarantine happened, my mixing has which is like my main kind of skill, I guess, has like dramatically improved for no apparent reason, just because I've been doing a lot of it lately, and I'm like, wow, I was never this good before, and yeah, you just got to keep at it, continuing education.
Yes, well, I guess that's where the discipline comes into play, right? The
Absolutely.
discipline aspect, getting in there and practicing it and practicing it. I mean, for some of us that are not as advanced as you are, it sounds good the night before, and then we will come back in the morning, it doesn't sound as great anymore, and then we're trying to figure out what's going on. But I guess it's just the repetitive nature of. You want to talk about a little bit of what your process is like as far as the discipline goes? Do you have a calendar, a rigid schedule that you try to stick by, not only in booking sessions and keeping up and following with clients, but also like to practice your skills, like you're saying, like trying to develop maybe new techniques, or you get some sort of inspiration along with the discipline that goes? You want to
So
talk about
I
that?
have kind of two parts to that. So the discipline. Well, first you were saying like you do a mix one night or make a beat, whatever you're doing, and then the next morning it doesn't sound good. I kind of bake that into my process. Like I assume that will happen. So
Okay.
in regards to client management, like I tend to turn down stuff with tight deadlines, unless it's like a ton of money and they don't really care about good quality or not, which is rare. Everybody wants everything. But anyway, the point is, I always tell my clients, even if I have nothing else going on, it's still going to take me 3 or 4 days to mix a record just because of that. Like, I want to come back with it fresh ears, tweak it a little, take it to the car, drive around, listen to it. I literally do that for every single mix. And I think that's a really important part of developing your sound and just trying to be objective about it. And then the other part, the discipline, I mean, that's, like we were talking about the family life thing. I mean, that's really the trickiest part of it, because with all this stuff, it's not like a job, like a 9 to 5 or whatever, where if you don't show up, you're not going to get fired. You're not going to be out on the street the next day. But if you don't show up, first of all, the other guy is going to show up and is more likely to get that client. But second of all, it's you're losing momentum and you're not going to build stuff as quickly. Like for instance, my Twitch channel that I'm working on now, like I don't have any viewers. I'm starting from scratch. So for me to like be like, I'm not going to do it tonight. There's no viewers. It doesn't matter. That's fine. I can do that, but I'm not going to be building that channel, and it's going to take that much longer to reach my goal. And it's really tricky to, get past that initial hump and like put in the reps, and you have to be able to, you know, go into the unknown, and it doesn't always work out is the honest truth. Like you have to be willing to do it the right way to the best of your ability, whatever it is you're doing, and accept that even if it doesn't work out, at least you tried, and the more of those things you do, eventually you'll find the thing that does work. It's always about adapting and keeping it going. And the other part of it too is, like you said on your other podcast, the music landscape has totally changed in the past 6-8 weeks. Like, yeah, I mean, if I was a DJ and I was doing weddings as my main source of income, yeah, I'd be out. Like, that would not be good. So it's always good. That could happen to anybody, like they might come out with an AI plugin that mixes better than me tomorrow. Unlikely, but it could happen, and everybody's gonna go with that. Like Lander, for instance, for mastering, I'm sure like that probably puts some mastering engineers out of business. But
Yes, I have heard some of the tone that Lander does, and to be honest, I think that yeah, it'll do a job if how can I say this? If you're probably not gonna release it like on the major Spotify or Amazon, if you just want to upload it on YouTube or and I'm not talking about YouTube for artists, but like your YouTube channel, maybe a SoundCloud, will probably be okay, fine. But there's always the touch of a, and believe me, I've learned the hard way. Okay, the touch of a real engineer. Okay, that has been doing this for a couple decades or even
absolutely, and
even
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 Sterling mastering has come
yeah.
way down on their prices because the competition is just fierce. Like they can't charge independent artists $250 to master one track anymore.
No.
And there's guys out there with like tons of awards, amazing equipment who'll do. I just got a thing mastered by this guy in the UK. It's like $40, and it
I,
sounds amazing. And it's
yeah.
like U2's mastering guy. Like, come on, you can't beat that stuff. My guy in Canada, it's $100. Like, these like 60 Juno awards.
Yeah. And yes, the competition is getting very strong. And to go back a little bit of what you talk about, like the AI is going to probably begin to do a lot of mixing, like some of the mastering plugins, like Ozone and some of the new Ozones, right? It has like a mastering assistant. It can give you kind of like a little bit of a reference starting point to help you. And I did a comparison with some of the sounds of some of the distributors that are trying to get mastering services that you upload your tracks, and it's Lander, it's forget the name of the other ones, but there's a couple of them out there. And when you run it through the some of them sound exactly like what's built in some of the softwares that we can buy right now. Okay,
Hmm.
but yes, so that is going to be evident eventually, and I have been talking about this for about 3 years now. That there is a AI component that's beginning to be rolled out to where not only DJs but music producers need to pay attention. Okay, because I believe that yes, the human touch. There's always gonna be a demand for it. There's always gonna be how some people like to eat organic food, right? They like to eat. There's always gonna be a market for that, but there's gonna be the competition side of it as well. All right, that is going to create competition for other up and coming artists. People are going to be able to not only buy beats that are automatically made like within very quick, okay, but then again, how do you compete with really knowing how to structure? Because the human emotion of it, okay, is really what drives the soul of the music industry. I would say it's not just the money, and this takes me to listening to some of those timeless records, okay, that you listen to. All right, like a lot of the new generation, like me, I like 80s music. To me, that's some of the best type of music there is, because not only the diversity of type of music, but the creativity and the songwriting and how you feel, and it sounded good. You actually want to turn it up, not you're not trying to turn it down. You know what I mean? Like some of the new
Hmm.
music nowadays, so loud you want to turn it down because it hurts your
Yeah.
ears. And that's the loudness word. That's a whole issue that maybe we'll touch on or not. But you actually listen and you want to turn it up, right? And you turn it
Yeah.
up and you feel that emotion because it was created. There's a little bit of an element of human error, I would say. Not only it's very well done, but there's certain things. Not only is the analog sound mixed with a little bit of the digital, but is it's not perfect. It's a little bit of human error, and you can feel it, right? You feel that emotion, and you want to talk a little bit about that, and how would that translate into the new era of producing EDM, or producing some of the newer music? How can we probably add some of those elements to make it sound a little bit more fluent, organic, and like a so that we can maybe one day create a timeless type of piece of work.
So, I mean, the short answer to that is quantity over quality. I mean, quality over quantity. Like, basically, like, you're talking about the older records. That's what brings you back. You mentioned on your other podcast that streaming is down, but streaming overall, there's actually an increase in catalog streaming, which means like new artists that are coming out, yeah, they're down 25%, but all the older records that society has kind of like decided that these are the classics. People
Yeah.
are spinning those more and more, and you see a lot of big money players trying to invest in those catalogs, because that's really what's generating the profit and driving the recording industry. But in regards to like the emotion, so I recently got the Amazon HD music service. And when I first got it, man, I was so excited. I was like, because it's been like 20 years since I listened to an actual CD. You know what I mean? Like, I've been on MP3s for
Oh
years and
boy.
years, and I just thought that's how it was. And then it brought me back to like high school and whatnot, when stuff had like that clarity in the top end and the punch in the low end, and then so I downloaded all like my favorite 90s and 80s records, and I was listening to them, and I'm thinking, man, what is the difference between this stuff and the stuff that comes out now? And the first thing that came to mind was like the budgets. So back then, you have labels drop $1 million on an artist, like just it's a write-off, no questions asked. They'll be in the studio for like weeks and weeks on end, like perfecting these songs. And nowadays, it's like you'll have a 4-hour writing session with a songwriter. That's the vocal that you get. That might be the vocal that is released. They didn't rehearse that. And even sometimes when I'm doing songwriting sessions, I'll come back with that same writer, and the vocal won't sound as good. So that's a whole other thing. Maybe people don't get in the same emotional state. But the point is, like, you got to spend the time. Excuse me. The time spent producing the record is time well invested, because you do these shortcuts. It's not going to compete. When you put out a record, you're competing against all recorded music of all time. You're not just competing about who's on New Music Friday with you this week. Like, nobody cares. Like, if I'm a listener, I can pull up any song I want, and basically everybody can right now for free. YouTube, whatever. There's millions of ways to access this music. So to really become timeless, you have to first of all, you have to be in the right time in the right place, but also you have to have put in that time into your project. I feel like those are less and less common now, just because there's so much more music being produced. There's 30,000, 40,000 songs per day uploaded to the streaming services. Like,
That
nobody's
is
listening to all that. Also, I
that is
think
monumental.
a good percentage of them are have like 0 plays. Like, literally not under 1,000, like straight 0.
Yes.
So, but you take songs like Uptown Funk, for instance, is my common example. So that came out after streaming, but it's still one of those songs that's going to be a classic. It already is a classic, and it's going to be performed. People still know it. It's going to be going on for years and years. And why is it that record? Who knows? It's a bunch of different factors. They spent a lot of time and a lot of money making that record in the first place. That is for sure.
Well, that's coming back to what you're saying, taking the time. So I want to talk about, in that order, about the fun record. Okay, with
The fun
We Are
record,
Young.
yes.
We Are Young, Diamond, certified Diamond, Grammy winning. I want you to take me a little bit through what that process is like, and maybe even some of the details that probably went into creating some of the sounds that you were involved with. You want to talk about that? What
Yeah,
goes
so
into it?
the fun record, excuse me, it's another one of those records. So that the fun record, we worked on it in 2011. It came out, I believe, in late 2011. So 2012 was when it really blew up. But it was the same thing. It was kind of a fluke. To be honest, like when I got the job, I only did it as a favor because the other guy was like sick or something or on vacation or whatever, and I felt bad. I heard the record. I was like, "What the heck is this?" It slows down in the chorus. I'm like, whatever. So I worked on it for about 3 days, creating the drums in the chorus. There's some big hip hop drums. They're a sample of an Eric B. and Rakim record. I forget the name off the top of my head, but it's basically like some big hip hop drums. And they spent a lot of money just uh, having us do those drums. And it was like each little finite detail, putting it together. And even the way the whole record came out. So that was when they were doing the Watch the Throne record, Jay-Z and Kanye. And the way they produced that record was they had I think it was the Mercer Hotel in New York. They booked out a whole floor. And then they just made a bunch of hotel rooms into like studio booths. So then Nate Roos, I believe, the singer from Fun, tracked down what was his name? I forget this guy's name. He's producing Watch the Throne. So I got to look this up because Jack Antonoff. Oh, Jeff Basker. That's it.
Jeff Basker. Okay.
Yeah, he's a Berkeley alum too. That's why I couldn't leave his name off. But he left my name off a lot of things. So I'm trying to not be, just because it happened to me doesn't mean I'm not gonna, I'm gonna mention him.
So creating this particular sound, so that's what it going. The timing, it goes, certain parts go to certain people to create certain sounds, certain things to complement a vision, somebody's vision, the vision of the producer. The engineers are so important in that process. So when you're creating this, you say you were like 3 days working on this. You were trying to, were you trying to either mimic or emulate a particular sound to try to incorporate it into what they wanted to do, or were you trying to because I know some people try to get some samples sometimes and they can clear them, right? They can get them cleared,
Right.
and then they try to go and then replicate it.
So basically, it was a sample replay, which is, as I mentioned, it was a sample of an Eric B. and Rakim record. So guys like Kanye and Jeff Basker and Jay-Z, any of them, they'll sample these old records, but they don't own that recording that they're sampling. A label or whoever owns it. So they are not legally allowed to release that without permission. So what happens, and it's very common in hip hop, but what happens is, you'll get lawsuits and whatnot if you release something that you're not allowed to. So oftentimes what happens is guys like me will come in and we will take that sample and we'll make a new recording that sounds the same. And with drums, that's it. Because a drum is a drum. There's no composition copyright, because there's this is a very complicated thing. I'm trying to break it down as like simply and quickly as possible. So there's
fine.
two parts to every copyright. There's the composition, which is the publishing and the actual song, and then there's the sound recording, which is the recording that was made in the studio or wherever. Yep. So when you're doing sample replays, there's two types of replays. There's one where you just recreate the sound recording, which with drums, you can't copyright the composition of a drum sound. You can't say, oh, this is my Yamaha tom tom. I own this sound, so anyone else who uses a Yamaha tom tom has to give me royalties. It doesn't work like that.
No.
So for drums, we'll just replay the sound recording and make it sound exactly the same, but it's a new recording. So the people who made that original recording do not own or have any rights to this new recording. Now, however, if this new recording contains a composition, then you also have to have permission from the publisher to use that composition, or you change a few notes and make it a new composition, basically. So that's called a flip.
Good, man. Well, that's fun. Diamond certified.
Oh, on that note, I forgot I was going to mention one more thing about the Fun record. So,
Yep.
like I was saying, it was a fluke. I didn't understand the record, but the way it got picked up, it was kind of in the right place at the right time. It got picked up on the Super Bowl, it was like a Super Bowl ad, was really the thing that kind of propelled it in front of a bunch of people. And then they kept going with that momentum, and it ended up becoming the number 2 downloaded song that year. And nowadays I don't know if Super Bowl is like the greatest way. You can't like look at other people's path and then like explicitly aim for that goal, I think. But it worked. Just because it worked for them doesn't mean it's going to work for you.